Hey everyone, you are here at Litvak Leadership Live with two guys that have the same barber. God, I hate bald jokes, but I figure I might as well say it before someone in the audience does. I'm here with my new good friend Tony Clyde. Tony is a leadership and sales management coach, consultant, and all that good stuff. Tony, welcome to Litvak Leadership Live.
Thank you. I am glad to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to come on and have this conversation. So,
I am always excited to talk to another brother in arms who is a leadership focused guy. So I got to ask you immediately, and we'll get to. And why is my phone? Oh, my phone is my watch is telling us we're live. Isn't that special?
Yeah, nice.
So I got to ask, why leadership?
Man, I have a long history of just working with people, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but 20 years I was a youth minister and pastor, and did speaking around the country and worked with leaders within the church and outside the church, and I just love helping people who want to be successful become more successful, and then help their teams become successful. That's one of my passions. So
how long ago were you bivocational or were you monovocational when you were in ministry?
Yeah, I was monovocational for 18 years.
Wow. So you left monovocational how long ago?
2014.
2014. Okay, so 7 years ago. So what attracted you to enter into, we'll call it the secular world, as a primary enterprise?
One of the things that I wanted to broaden my reach as far as helping people experience their best quality of life.
Okay.
One of the things, within the church, I felt limited in it to the time frames that people were there for the church. And it wasn't, for me anyways, it wasn't as significant of an impact on business change and leadership as much as I wanted to be.
I was once having a meeting. In fact, my wife and I were having a meeting with our pastor and his wife several years ago, pastor at the time, and there was a group of couples there, and we were going around the table, and we were supposed to talk about what our hobbies were, and they got to me, and I was like, I don't have any hobbies. I just work, or I'm at church. And our pastor's wife looked at me. She goes, "You have a hobby. Don't you know what your hobby is?" I said, "No, what is my hobby?" She said, "You're a leadership junkie. Everything you post about has to do with leadership." Hence, at that point, it was like, okay. And it rang true with me. So when you were involved with ministry, I'm just curious, how did you motivate? So you were in youth ministry, so you weren't working in men's ministry.
No.
Okay.
So it was mostly in youth ministry.
So what do you see as the similarities with youth ministry and coaching adults?
Here's where it's at is one of the things, first of all, for teenagers, and whenever I was working with them, they have a hunger for learning, and a lot of people don't tap into that, even in youth ministry. And what I mean by that is they want to figure out where they fit in life.
Okay.
And how they live into it. And my leadership coaching and working with adults, that's where I focus at, is really in that desire of where do I fit in this life as a leader, and then how do I live into it?
And how to live into it, you said?
Yes.
So what do you mean by live into it?
So I don't think you can separate your life. I mean, people try to compartmentalize life, but I don't think you really can. You carry everything over. So if you're in a leadership position, you have to live into what that position is, and living into it means that you put yourself into it, and you're present in that moment, in that position, as well as being present in whenever you're outside of the actual work position, when you're with your family or anything else, you're still living into some form of leadership, even within your family.
So have you trademarked "live into it"? Because I have never heard that phrase before.
Really?
Really?
No, I haven't.
You should look at that.
One of the things I like. I think you have to live into what your life is.
That could be like a whole slogan for you. Just saying, I've never heard anyone phrase it that way. I like it. So, how do you define leadership?
I think the simplest definition, because there's really no one definition that everyone can agree on, academically, professionally, whatever it is. And a lot of people say it's simply influence. I actually like to view it more as unlocking the potential in others. It moves beyond just how can I influence somebody into the realm of how can I help that person unlock what their true potential is, so that they can actually live fully in what their potential is.
Okay. And how do you go about unlocking that potential in others?
Actually, I think there's 8 keys.
Okay.
And I break it down to really the eight keys. I mean, John Maxwell has his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and there's 21 things. Covey has 7 practices. And when I look at it, I think there's 8 keys that help leaders unlock not only their own potential, but also the potential in others. The first one being self-awareness, knowing yourself and who you are, what your strengths are, your weaknesses, every aspect about who you are, how your life story plays into your leadership and your practice of daily activity. The second key being doing the right things and being attentive to your own morality and your own moral identity, and then how you live those out ethically with your people. Engaging your team, actually, and getting into how you can actually engage who they are, understanding them, their life, being an influencer, where you do seek to influence your team. Me being in sales, that's what sales is influencing people.
Okay. So that's number 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
5, actually. I think
5.
I skipped one. But
okay.
So we have know yourself, do what's right, focus on what matters.
Okay.
Not focusing on the peripheral things, acknowledging those, but if you focus on what really matters, then you can guide people in the right direction.
All right.
So know yourself, do what's right, focus on what matters, engage your team, be an influencer.
Right.
Inspire greatness. And then number 7 is encourage continual learning. And then the 8th key would be invest in your staff or invest in your followers. I think if you're doing those 8 things, then those are what help unlock not only your own potential, but also the potential in your employees, your teams, your business, whatever it is.
So self-awareness is something that has been a pursuit of mine for years, because I've been told that I'm one of the simplest, most misunderstood people many have met. And that has always been a statement that has come to me from someone who gets me. People who don't get me look at me and they're like, what are you? What is your story? So I have had to learn how to adjust how I speak to people,
Right.
be aware of my tone to the point of it being painful sometimes, because being an ENTJ and a high D, high I, I just tell it how it is. And people don't necessarily like that. So how do you coach people to reel it in? At least that's what I had to do. Reel it in and understand themselves so as not to offend, or on the opposite of me, be ignored by people.
Yeah.
Right? You're either dominating or you're too laid back as the extremes. How do you coach people to understand themselves and be self-aware?
I think first of all, we have to understand what our perspective is and how we get that perspective. And what I mean by that is we interpret the world around us based on how we've been conditioned and how we've grown up, our life experiences, whether they're trigger events that have taken place that are significantly meaningful events, that we perceive the world around us in a specific way that's unique to us. And in concert, I guess, with that, we not only perceive the world, but we project our own image of what the world is like.
Okay.
And when you begin to understand, one, how you're perceiving the world, and two, how you're projecting that perception into your reality, you can begin to see some of the things that you were talking about. Because I'm very similar. I'm an ENFP, also high D, high I, very direct. I also am interpreted as lacking empathy at times, or being aloof and unconcerned. Like, I have.
Oh no, not that.
So all of those things, and whenever I begin to realize that, and you look at it, this is how I project into that. And there's times that when the more you learn about yourself, by the way, self-awareness is probably the hardest thing for us to do. I think it was Thales, who the ancient Greek mathematician, who said, knowing yourself is the most difficult thing in life. And it's true, because we are blinded in a lot of ways. We have our own blind spots to what we're really like. And that's why I think coaching is so important, because it's important to understand that you have to dig into why you think certain ways or why you react certain ways. So opening some of those things up and asking that question, okay, so why did you get upset at this time? Or why did you react with your employee in that situation? Or why are you holding your employee back because you don't want to release your employee to perform in a certain way because you think you have to control it? So it's helping people see some of those things.
So talking about releasing employees yet controlling employees, finding that balance of, where is the balance of accountability in your mind between releasing and controlling? When is it micromanaging versus when is it allowing them to trip on themselves and learn from an error?
Yeah. So someone once told me, give them enough string to hang themselves.
Yeah.
But pull it back before they do.
All right.
Another phrase that someone gave me was trust your employees, but verify. And what I mean by that, and both of those examples kind of play into that focusing on what matters aspect of leadership, as well as engaging them and understanding who they are. If you have an understanding of what the strategic plan or the actions that are expected in a business, then you can guide and direct your employees in how they can actually live those out in their business. So like with me in sales, we have high impact and sales that we have every single day is a new day. You have new people that you're talking to.
Yep.
And there are certain actions that are expected in order for a sale to go from a lead to being sold.
Yeah.
And if you can identify it and you focus on what those actions are, the outcomes work themselves out.
Well, and even, with the industry, you had told me that you are have been in before. When you look at any type of sales, even if you're dealing with the same people for multiple meetings before the deal is closed, you've always got to be filling that funnel with new people.
Yes.
Because eventually you're going to run out of people to talk to if you're not continuously grazing, hunting and farming. Let me ask you one thing you said really jumped out at me. Well, a lot of things did, but you said engaging your team is who they are. So talk about that, because don't you want to engage your team as who they are capable of being, is one philosophy?
Yeah, I think so. But you also have to start where they're at. You have to understand where they are currently. And then you can actually pinpoint and show them what their potential is. I can give, I don't know how many examples of the salespeople that I've worked with, leaders that I've worked with. And, I have a couple in mind right away that I can say, look, you're hitting at this level, but your potential is far greater. You're not even tapping into this yet. And then asking them, what are you doing, or what little thing can you tweak? Because we know where you are right now. What little thing can you tweak to get you to one step higher, one level up? But you have to understand where you're at currently, or in this case, where your team is at or your employees are at currently, before you can begin to understand where they have the capability of going.
Okay. And I read somewhere, and it has stuck with me. Coach to strengths, not to weaknesses. It's far easier to take someone from good to great than from crap to adequate.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But what do you do about the thing that they're terrible at? Do you backfill it with another team member, or how do you do both at once as a coach?
I think one of the things is you have to identify what it is. Is what they're bad at, or what the negative? Is that a character flaw, or is it a skill related issue? If it's a skill related issue, you can train. So if they lack in closing and negotiating, for example, then there needs to be some time spent in training on closing and negotiating. However, if they lack in if it's an ability that is not something that they're capable of, then you have to focus wherever they're capable. And like you said, kind of fill that in with other team members. That's why diversity in a team is so important.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't have all the same types of people. And what I mean by types of people includes personalities, perspectives, things like that. You want to have a variety of people and skill levels that you can put into different positions and different places and help them focus on where they're good and fill in some of those other areas that they may not be so capable in.
So as a leader, when you're going into a situation where you're going to present to another group and you're bringing your team with you, how do you prepare your team to perform, engage in a choreographed way that makes sense to those receiving what you have to say?
I think it goes back to what are the values that we're focused on? What is the vision for the purpose of what we're engaging? And then you just keep everyone focused on what that purpose is. If the purpose is, in this case, to present an idea, then everything that you do with your entire team is centered around how you present that idea. If it's, for example, going in and meeting with a company to talk about why coaching is so important in that area, you have to understand, first of all, what the company need is, or what the need for the audience is,
Mm-hmm.
and then be able to focus the purpose of that meeting to fit what that need is. And then, so you have, I mean, there are a variety of ways you can do that with different people working in different aspects of sales, how they approach the sale in that sense. If it's about expanding or helping a company expand its sales numbers, then you don't really want to talk about HR issues.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
want to focus on what expands sales numbers. So you
So,
go in with that focus on what the purpose is, and you keep everyone targeted on what that focus is.
so when you focus on what matters from a sales perspective for a moment, there's phone calls, there's emails, there's social media, there's cold calling, there's running through your email, there's working on proposals, there's great big ideas you have to streamline processes to make all those things I just mentioned easier.
Yeah.
How do you recommend people look at their day, look at their week, and plan it out to be efficient for themselves? Because I know it's a different answer for everyone,
Yeah.
but there's got to be some sort of framework. What do you recommend?
One of the things I do with the people that I work with is I try to create like a planner of some sort, but I have a checklist on the planner. And there are some of those key things are the phone calls that you have, appointments, following up with those you have, and then how many times do you follow up, broke down in there, following up with the leads that are coming in, the sold customers that have already sold, because just because they sold doesn't mean we're done with them as a customer.
Right.
And then it goes through. So my thought and process is, one, create a checklist of the daily activities that are essential for you to fulfill your business. And as you go through, you mark off that checklist. If it's too difficult, people don't do it. If it's too easy, it's not meaningful enough. So
Sure.
there's also an area in there. Okay, what are the things that I want to accomplish this month or this week, if it's a weekly thing? What am I looking at accomplishing, and what are the strengths that help me get there? What are the barriers or limitations that hold me back? Because you have to be able to identify those in order to move past them. What are the resources that I have that help guide me into being successful? And then what are the daily activities that are essential for me to do it with the results that I'm expecting from those activities? So you want to identify not only what the activity is, but what result do you expect from the activities that you're doing? For instance, I'm going to make 100 phone calls today, and the result that I'm expecting out of that is 10 appointments,
Yeah.
and 5 meetings.
Yeah.
And then you break it down. And if you do that and you have this checklist of, okay, I've made these phone calls, I've made this, I've done this, I've sent my emails. Some people like blocking it.
Yeah.
I'm not really a blocker in the sense of, so like my day and how I function, I prefer a checklist that I don't have to write out every time. So I literally spent the time and spend the time at the beginning of the month to write out what my checklist is for every day. And then I make sure I handle those things.
So you plan your checklist for the entire month for each day at the beginning of the month.
Yes.
So how do you leave room for the unexpected?
Because whenever I go through and I get those marked off, the first thing I do is I come in and I have certain things that I do every single morning. First of all, and with what I do with my sales team, I look at what are the leads that came in overnight. Even though I'm not personally handling all those leads, I want to know what we have.
Sure.
I want to see what's coming in, what's happening. Then I take those leads, I look from those, how many phone calls can be expected. I look at what appointments we have scheduled for that day. and again, how we can follow up with that. I look at what happened the day before, who missed appointments, how did things change so that we can make those adjustments for today. So those are things that I look at every single morning before I do anything else. Then I start going through emails and processing things. And so I have my checklist that I start out with every day with. And I know based on what my days look like that I have certain times that I'm doing certain things, but then everything else is open. So whenever a new customer comes in or I have a new experience, something changes, I can actually deal with that issue, but then go back to what my checklist is to make sure I have everything done. I try to keep it simplified as well. I don't want to do more than 5 essential things that have to get done every day to make sure that it's getting done.
Okay.
If it's simplified, and so like my case, I look at leads, look at appointments, look at previous days and what we're trending, what are we tracking as far as our sales go. I look at what my employees' needs are, what training am I going to be doing that day with them whenever I do my one-on-ones and I get with them. And then I look at how I'm going to be following up with the things that I need to get followed up with. Those 5 things that I do, I can get most of it done first thing in the morning.
All right.
Spend my day doing the other 2 or 3 things that I can do throughout the day, like the one-on-one training. I get with my team and get with them each day. We focus on, okay, these are areas that you can improve, and we deal with that, so on and so forth. And then whenever things happen, if I have a customer that comes in or have somebody that comes in and needs something that distracts me, so to speak, from what I need to get done, I can focus on that moment and get it taken care of and then go back to what I was doing.
So you talk about inspiring greatness. To me, that's been a double-edged sword. How do you inspire greatness?
I think it goes back to what is the purpose of why we as a business are here? What's our vision or direction that we're going? And then looking at the employees, how they fit and what their motivations are, I guess, and how I can trigger their motivation to use it to the advantage of the company.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is because we can't motivate other people. What we can do is trigger their motivation. And that's done through a variety of ways. I mean, there's good grief. It's the desires that they have. What are their drives? What drives them to be successful? If you understand that, you can capitalize on those and help them say, look, your drive is to feed your family. How are you doing that? So if your family is driving you to be successful, then let's look at what the reality is. You're here at work so that you can take care of your family or whatever the situation may be. So what their drive is, what their desires are, what their needs are, what their dreams or wishes are, what their goals are. You can capitalize and trigger their motivation if you understand what those things are. And that's why it's so important to engage your employees and engage your team, because you have to learn what actually triggers their motivation.
So that is interesting. I've always thought of a trigger as a negative thing. I've never thought about a trigger as triggering motivation.
Yeah. Of course, you could use the word manipulate too.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said you could use in that situation the word manipulate as well. Another word that we think negatively that can be as a positive.
Interesting. So what do you think the perfect length for any meeting is?
As short as possible.
But there's a balance. If it's too short,
there is, yes.
It just turns into, I am dumping on you. This is what you will do. Go.
I think it depends on what the purpose of the meeting is.
Okay.
If the meeting is to consult, then it's obviously going to have a different time frame than if the meeting is to direct. And what I mean by that is this: if you're consulting or looking for feedback from other people, you're actually engaged in a conversation. If it's a meeting that's designed to direct, you're giving information. Those are very short, quick, easy. Let's get to the point. Here's where we're going. This is what we need to get done. What are you doing to get it? Okay, what are you doing to get it? What are you doing? And then you're done. Okay, let's move on. There's not necessarily a need for a lot of conversation if it's that type of meeting. If your purpose for the meeting is to direct, then make it a meeting to direct. If your purpose for the meeting is to brainstorm, it may take longer. But I think you have to target what the meeting is for. What's the purpose for the meeting?
So if it's a brainstorming session, and we've all been there, where you sit around the table, you might even order lunch for everybody, and then you start talking about something and you want people to give you feedback. And next thing you know, you can hear everyone chewing their French fries or their pizza and no one is saying a word. What do you do in situations like that?
I think one of the things you have to get them involved in the actual brainstorming itself. One of the things I like doing in those types of meetings is to have Post-it notes.
Okay.
Where they write down ideas, then post them on the board. So we have, we're brainstorming, how do we increase sales? So here's our meeting. We're going to brainstorm, how do we increase sales? All right, everyone, write your idea down on what ideas do you have that can increase sales real quick. Give them 5 pieces of paper, write 5 ideas down. You have to target. You can't just let a free-for-all meeting go.
Right.
You have to target it. You have to give direction to an extent, but then let it freely evolve. So if you have 5 things that you have to write down, okay, I'm going to write these 5 things down. Okay, let's hang them on the board. Now, everyone, let's look at these and let's organize them. Are there themes? And then you just break it down. So brainstorming can actually be highly productive in that type of setting if you have it focused. Again, what's the purpose of the meeting? If it's to increase sales or if it's to decrease risk or whatever the purpose is, let's target it, let's focus it, and let's give some guidance.
Okay.
That doesn't stifle creativity.
Absolutely. So shockingly, in our 30-minute show, we've gone almost 33 minutes so far. You're incredibly engaging, and we could easily go an hour, but then people wouldn't watch the replay. So I try to keep it 30 minutes. So, but in the last couple minutes that we have here, I want you to reach out to the audience. I want you to look them in the eye, and I want you to tell them what the Tony Clyde motivational secret sauce is.
Oh, good. That's gonna be interesting. Secret sauce on motivational. Again, I think it has to be that you have to, one, understand yourself, because if you're doing something that's holding somebody else back because of who you are, then you're limiting them. You have to understand who you are. You also have to understand who you're engaging. So with your staff, if you're trying to help trigger their motivation, you have to understand, again, what drives them, what their desires are, what their dreams or their wishes for their future, what their needs are, what their goals are. And if you can understand and tap into those 5 things, you're going to capture what triggers the motivation of your team, and you'll be able to move them into a place where they can actually live out what their full potential is.
That's fantastic. You have nailed it on the head, at least as far as I'm concerned. So, Tony, thank you so much for being on my show today. It was a pleasure having you here. Folks, if you're looking for someone to talk with about leadership and sales management, Tony Clyde is your guy. You can find him at TonyClyde.com. When you go there and you talk to him, make sure you tell him, hey, I saw you on Litvak Leadership, and that's why I'm here today. And here we go. Tim Lord. Tim Lord has his own agency in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Nice.
So I got to say it slowly because I don't say it right otherwise. Tim's a great guy. But everyone else, that's the show for the day. Come back tomorrow, another guest, another location, another topic, but it's all about leadership. Be blessed in all you do. Bye now.